everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss the most important games in our backlogs. And the reason for this is, of course, you're watching this, you have a backlog, I have a backlog. I mention it basically every time I talk about a new video game, like, oh yeah, that seems cool, I'll buy it in 2 years. I got like 100 million games. I've made videos like, here's my plan for these games I'm gonna play that I haven't played yet. And that was, like a year ago, like I'm gonna stream this. I didn't stream it, I didn't even play it, I haven't touched it. Like I've only touched like 2 games I feel in the past whole year, and that's the finals and Zenless Zone Zero, because they're free to play and I don't have to get invested in the story where I feel like I have like an hour and a half to play. So I thought this was, definitely a video worth talking about, because there's so many games that we have in our backlogs. I mean, if you're a PC player like me, I have a PS5. I was gonna say, like, I have consoles and stuff, but modern-wise, I only have a PS5. But I have Steam. I've had Steam for years. I can tell you, I still remember the first ever game I bought on Steam. I mentioned this in some other video a while back, but it was Bulletstorm. It was Bulletstorm. That was the first ever game I bought on Steam, and I beat the whole game on there. Shame it never got a sequel. Shame it never got a sequel. But I've bought many games since then. Some, half off. Some like ridiculously 97% off or something ridiculous. I don't even know how much. I mean, honestly, I have the Borderlands games. I think I bought Borderlands 1 for $2. I like, that's how far behind I was on Borderlands, by the way. And I've still only played the first one. And the reason for that is actually because I was gonna get into the second one years ago, and it just kept dying on my computer. Like I would get to the start screen and it would never play. It just would never do it. So I've never played Borderlands 2 specifically because it just froze all the time on the main menu screen. It would do the little thing where it would like rotate around Claptrap, and that's it. Like it would play the whole opening cutscene, and as soon as it got to the actual menu where the world exists and it's in game, it would just freeze. It would rotate a little. I'm like, please just load a button, like load new game, load options. Let me just drop down and press A or whatever. And let me just get in here. Always froze, so I never got to play it. But I wanted to talk about the ones that are really important. Like they're on the backlog, but it's like, I consider this an important game. It's something that I should have played years ago. And not just like, oh, I bought it years ago. It's like, I should have played that. That's like literally a part of a franchise that I love. I should have played it by now. And one of the first ones I'm gonna go with is Metal Gear Solid 5. I've never played MGS5. Growing up, it was Resident Evil number 1, Metal Gear was number 2. That's how it was for a super long time. And it got to the point where, Peace Walker's a little different. Obviously that was PSP, so it, same as like Acid and stuff. It was like, oh, I wish I could play those because I like Metal Gear. But oh well, they're, like that's over there. I ain't got money for that. You kind of push it off to the side. Finally played MGS4 when I got like my PS3 Slim, so it took me forever to play that one, but that was more of a $600 limitation at the time. But I got it, and then I beat it. That was like one of the first, objectives. It was like, all right, that was in like the smallest of games, day one when I got my Slim, where I was like, all right, these are the games I know I'm gonna go out and buy. So, had that taken care of. And then 5 was coming out. And it was like, okay, 5 is coming out. They had the Ground Zeroes thing come out, and I also have that on Steam. So I have that on Steam, and then I have 5. I bought it, I did buy it, which I'm pretty sure was Black Friday at some point, and I bought it on sale, and I have it on PS4. I think it's still sealed, honestly, and I haven't played it. And a part of that was my OCD of being like, you know what? The Metal Gear Solid HD collection has Peace Walker on it. I can actually just play Peace Walker, and then I can just play Ground Zeroes, and then I can just play 5. It makes sense. And then I never got to beat Peace Walker because my PS3 died. And granted, it also took me like 2 or 3 years to finally even start Peace Walker. Like I bought it when I got the HD collection. I was buying a bunch of games. I've mentioned this quite a few times. I also own the Ninja Gaiden games, and that was admittedly kind of stupid, but that was more so due to the fact that, I didn't know they were gonna do a collection of those games either. And then I never beat them. And then 6 years later, it was like, hey, Ninja Gaiden collection, which really upset me. Although Ninja Theory thought it was hilarious. They liked that comment I made where I was like, oh, that hurts. And they thought that was hilarious. I was like, wow, these guys are evil, but super funny. So didn't know that was gonna happen. I was buying a bunch of games during that era, like on the PS3, and I was like, all right, you know what, never played Ninja Gaiden, let me get Sigma 2. I bought Sigma, well, it's not Sigma 3, but it's, Razor's Edge, which is basically Sigma 3. I got that on the Wii U. I was like, I'm gonna play through all the Ninja Gaiden games. I didn't do that junk. Like all of Ninja Gaiden is still on my backlog. But Metal Gear, I was actually, even though it took me like 2 or 3 years to finally even start Peace Walker, I was doing it. I was like, I'm gonna do it. And then my PS3 actually died on me, and it just like, it broke my heart. Like it obviously, you know, for one, my effing PS3 is gone. Like it just hurts. But I was also like in the middle of actually doing it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna finally effing do this. And I played quite a bit. I was like playing consistently when it was happening. And I had finally gotten into the rhythm of just effing playing the game. And I was like, finally, I'm gonna just, you know, go on. I'll play Ground Zeroes, even though it's, you know, the Steam version versus playing on PS4. It didn't really matter. I was like, I'll just play it just to have the story, and then I'll hop over and, you know, play on my PS4 and go through MGS5. And I've still yet to do it. It was my number 2 franchise. I wouldn't call it my number 2 now. I don't even know what I would consider like my number 2. I haven't thought about that in so long. I just always think about the fact that, you know, Metal Gear was my number 2 growing up, and then it kind of stopped. And I think it only stopped just because of the fact that, you know, during the PS3 era, it took me so long to finally play for it, and like so many things ended up coming out, you know, in the 360 era, of course, and going from, you know, PS2 to 360. Like there was a lot there, and, you know, like I always put Dead Space up super high. Alan Wake is up there. I talk about those all that in time. Like I just kind of randomly landed on those 2, and they both became franchises. Granted, it took, you know, 13 years for Alan Wake to have a second game, or technically a number 2. It did have a second game. I don't know, like a couple years after. It was only like 2 years or so. They made the Alan Wake's American Nightmare DLC, which was like a small, you know, in the classic days, it would be called an expansion pack if it was like pure PC terms, but it was a much smaller game. But Metal Gear Solid 5 is definitely, it's got to be like the number 1 on the list, but also it's kind of 3 games in one, because it's not just 5. It's just the one that was like the precursor to being like, well, that's the big game in the franchise. It's 5. But also now I have the opportunity, because I don't have to buy a PSP. I have, well, you know, had Peace Walker. Is like, well, I can just actually play it. I don't want to just read it. Like I kind of have OCD in that way. And also it's Metal Gear. I was like, well, I actually want to play it if now I have the option. And so it's kind of, you know, however you want to count Ground Zeroes, but at the very least, it's 2 games in a row, where, you know, within the franchise, and especially because it's Peace Walker, it was way more important versus it just being like randomly playing, you know, any other Metal Gear game. It was like, no, this is like, you know, in a sense, it really is the precursor to MGS5. Like a lot of stuff in Peace Walker is in 5. It's just way more advanced, you know, by the time you get to 5. And it was like, man, that makes it even worse. And that's why I feel like I can't skip to MGS5. It almost makes Peace Walker the one that's more important, because it's the first in line before getting to, you know, Ground Zeroes. And I've constantly thought about it, like maybe I'll just one day just watch a full playthrough of the entire game. And it's just be like, you know what, I'll just watch somebody do it, and whatever I see is what I see. You know, at the very least, I'll get the, you know, genuine full story. I might not get as many of the side missions and stuff, which those don't really do much anyway. But it's not like I'm gonna also listen to every single recording. And there was a hot minute where I was doing that. There are a lot of recordings in that game, and you just hear people talk, and I was like, after a while, it kind of gets to me. I was just like, ooh, I just want to play now. But I would sit for a little bit. It was kind of like back in the old Assassin's Creed days, where I would read all the information for like all these old historical things. And then one day I was like, I don't remember any of this. I stopped. Like I just stopped doing it. I was like, I love learning about things, but I literally don't remember any of this stuff. Like there's so many things that I just don't remember. I remember one thing, which once again, I think I mentioned this before, and I was up in the middle of the night. It was like 3 in the morning, and it's the only one I remember because I was up at 3 in the morning, and that was when it like hit my brain. I'm reading about this building that theoretically existed in this location, because it was like destroyed in the year 800 or something crazy like that, and this was like a recreation of what we believe it looked like. And I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. And like it just hit me, where I was just like, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. If I had like a photographic memory, I would read every single thing, 100%, but I don't. And I don't remember any of those buildings from Assassin's Creed 2, except for that one that was destroyed, because I was up in the middle of the night trying to find those stupid effing puzzle glyphs so I could get that little 15-second clip of Adam and Eve running over some crap. That's the only reason I remember that. That's it. But for Metal Gear, I do at least need the story. So Metal Gear Solid 5 is definitely one of the top games. And like I said, honestly, at this point, I think Peace Walker technically is more important because it comes first. So Peace Walker, then Ground Zeroes, then MGS5 are definitely some of the most important games in my backlog, where it's like, one day, it must be done. I do know like a slight spoiler. I kind of know like the spoiler, I guess I would say, for MGS5. It took a long time for it to happen, but it was like, oh, that's interesting. And I haven't looked into details, because why would I? but I'm curious to still play it. I'm curious to see it. I'm curious to experience the game myself, just from the issues it has, where people are like, yeah, that third act obviously just completely fell apart. I'm curious what that means. I'm curious how I'll feel going through that experience. So there's a lot to it that I want to get to, but MGS5 and Peace Walker, really, those are definitely like some of the most important ones on my backlog, because I love Metal Gear. I still love it, and it's a shame that I haven't done it. But I still love that franchise, and it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. So that's number one, or I guess 1, 2, and 3, depending on how you look at Ground Zeroes as its own game. So that's 1, 2, and 3. You can count it all together if you want. But after that, I do have the games that I know I'm gonna get to sooner rather than later, and that is Deathloop. Deathloop is one of the games where I wanted that game so bad when it first came out, or when it was even announced. I was like, holy crap. In fact, I have videos on it from when it was like first announced. I felt like I was the only person on earth that was like, what are people talking about? Like, when that game was first announced, everybody was like, it doesn't seem that interesting. I was like, it is a time travel, like, I don't remember exactly if they gave out that much information in the beginning, but even from the first trailer, I was like, it's a cool 70s action thing. And I think they do explain in the very beginning that, it's a death loop. And it's like, like we keep fighting this battle over and over again, trying to, kill each other. And I have to find my way out of it. And I'm like, how are people not instantaneously wrapped up in figuring out what the story of this game is? Everybody was just like, And I'm like, guys, you're crazy. Like, you're crazy. And I wanted that ever since that first trailer. And I was like all over it. And then one day I finally got it, because I never ended up buying the game. That was more of a money situation than anything else, and still at the time already having a bit of a backlog. And then one day, Best Buy had their gaming sale where it was like, hey, $10 for these games, and that was one of the games that popped up. And I was like, well, I can't pass this opportunity up. I kind of wish I did, because I ended up getting it for free on the Epic Game Store like a year later, but it was $10, so I'm not like, oh my god, I spent $10. But it was definitely cool. It was like, man, I got this game that I wanted for a super long time. I've only put like 12 hours into it. And those 12 hours are the first 6 hours of the game twice. And you can watch my stream of that, because the first time I played it was probably over a year ago, and I was high, and I was having fun, and I was like, man, I'm finally playing this game. And then I didn't play it for like 3 months, because I had, life was just like the main component as to why my streaming has always been like iffy. Like, every time I'm about to get into it, legit, something crazy happens in my life, and it like just stops everything. And you can see it when you look at my streaming stuff. I'll stream and be like, I'm back, and then like a month later, I'm back again. That's how it's been for a super long time. But I played it twice, and I had a great time with it both times. Although there's something that happened the second time I played it that really upset me, because I forgot a component of like the actual story of the game. And for those of you that remember, like the first little chunk, there's something that they forcibly do that I forgot about, and I was getting all the weapons. I was like, I got like, there's a submachine gun that has like a suppressor on it or something crazy, and I was like, this weapon is way too powerful. I didn't have it the first time, but I got it the second time I played the game, and I was like, oh, I'm taking everybody out with this. I was basically using like a submachine gun as like a sniper rifle, because it was one of those, it's that type of game where you can just shoot from a distance and it didn't matter. And I'm like, I basically have an automatic sniper rifle with a suppressor on it, because no one can find me. And I was like, I'm wiping everybody out. And then the thing happened, and I lost all my stuff, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And then I forgot where the weapon was, because I was spending extra time playing, because I was like, oh, I can unlock everything on my first run now, because I can like explore everywhere, because I can take everybody out. And that messed me up. So when I go back, I'll have to try to remember where that gun is, because I was like, this gun is kind of OP, but it was definitely helping me out. But I got to beat that game. I got to get back to it. Like, I honestly want to do my streaming. That's probably going to be the #1 game. I think that's going to be the first one, because I don't know anything about it. Some people love it. Some people are like, it was trash. For me, and maybe it's because I'm a sucker for a time-based story, like time loops and all that stuff. Back to the Future fan over here. So, anything time-based, especially where it's like you die and you start over, it's like, come on. Like, I'm all in on that. I got to know. Plus, I love the Dishonored games. I love the combat from those, and just the way those games are handled is super fun. This is obviously a lot more linear compared to that, but still incredibly well done. So like I said, I actually have enough experience with that game where I'm like, I know how much I already enjoyed it, just at least combat wise, and I'm still so early in the story that everything's still kind of a mystery. So the entire mystery of the game, I'm still like, well, I want to know what that is, and the gameplay I know I enjoy. So that's definitely up there. And right under Deathloop is Hi-Fi Rush. If it weren't for the fact that, classic PC situation, the first day it came out, of course, it was exclusive at the time, so it wasn't even on PlayStation, which is irrelevant because I still have it on PC. But the first day it came out, I was like, I'm buying this right now. I bought the game on Steam, and that junk would not play for me at all. Like, it was, I don't know what the deal was, but it was like the day one issues, and that junk just wasn't working. Like, it would not work for me at all. It was like acting super weird when I would try to record and stream at the same time, and I don't know what it was, but I could not get it to work, and I had to return it. And I think I even tried it on Steam and on the Epic Game Store, and I bought it separately, and I was like, I want it to work. I want to play this game, and I just couldn't do it. And then same situation as Deathloop, I got it a little bit later, and I played like one episode. I got like a couple hours in on the game. Absolutely loved it. I probably got more time just trying to do my settings in that game than I do actually playing the game. I played the first chunk of that first battle in that game. I probably played like 24 times, just going through and dealing with recordings and trying to get my settings correct so it doesn't F up on me. But I gotta play that game. And when I do play that game, I'm definitely not making any money off of it because I'm using all the licensed music. I do not care. Like, I'm not doing the streamer mode. When I play that, it is 100% licensed music all the way through. I'm not monetized anyway, so it won't make a difference. Might as well do it now before it actually has an impact. Like, oh, I didn't make money. I don't make money off of any of it. So when I get to that, all licensed music. So look forward to that in 2.5 years. But Hi-Fi Rush is definitely right on that list, right up under Deathloop, because I was super excited for that game, just like I was with Deathloop. And although I'm not as invested story-wise, or it's like a this grand mystery, just the play style of it, it's just a fun game to play. And I even bought like the when I ended up getting the game on sale, I think I got it for like $23, and it was like the deluxe edition when I ended up doing it. So I got like all the costumes and everything, and plus both Deathloop and Hi-Fi Rush have photo modes, so of course that makes me want to play them even more. But I definitely got to go with Deathloop, and I definitely have to do Hi-Fi Rush. And then after that, there's definitely just that cavalcade of things where it's like, here's a bunch of games here, there, and everywhere. Ghostwire Tokyo is another one where it's not in the same vein as Deathloop, but I combine them a little bit because they were both announced on the same day on that stage. So I always think of them together in unison because it was like, oh, that's just how I remember them, because I remember them both being announced. And I was super excited, especially, like a lot of people, it's like, oh, once we found out it was like a weird sort of first-person magic thing, it was like, oh, that's definitely not what I thought it was going to be from that initial trailer. But I always remember both those games being announced and being like, I want both of these. And fortunately, that is a game that I did not buy for any price. And one day, it was on the Epic Game Store for free. Very happy about that. Every once in a while they'll put out like a large game that I always wanted, and that's definitely one of them. They actually just put out regardless of when you see this, it has already passed, so don't look for it now. But for me, last week was Dead Island 2, and I was like, holy crap, they put Dead Island 2 on here, and I couldn't believe it. So I was super happy to get that because I love the first Dead Island game. I'm not the biggest fan of Dead Island Riptide, which is technically the second game, but it was even when I first played that, I remember being like, this was like a DLC. It was very clear that it was like this was supposed to just be a part of the main game, and they made it its own thing because it was very obvious that was like an unfinished thing. So I remember being a little annoyed with that one back in the day, but I loved the first Dead Island game, and I was excited to finally at some point be like, hey, I'm gonna get Dead Island 2. Wasn't losing my mind about it once again, but I was like, I want to play it. I love me some good zombie killing and the weird, crazy weapons that they have in those games. And give me an electric katana, I'm happy all day long. So one day I'll recreate that when I eventually end up playing Dead Island 2. But I was very happy to have that one for free, and I'll probably wait until the DLC goes on sale at some point in the future and buy that, and then I'll go through like the entire game plus the DLC. But very excited for Dead Island 2, at some point. But that's a much more recent thing. I wasn't even thinking of like, that's on my list to even buy or anything like that. It's like, it's on there. It doesn't even count as backlog because I don't own the game. Backlog is what you already got. And here's a crazy one. Here's like it's a throwback backlog game because I bought these forever ago, and I just got like the literal very first game in the entire series for free from like the Amazon Prime stuff. It's the Legacy of Kain games. I owned the very first game on PlayStation when it came out, I didn't even know that there was a game before Soul Reaver for like a decade, probably almost 15 years after. And then I just randomly saw it one day, like Nosgoth as its own thing. I was like, what the F is that? I thought it started at Soul Reaver. It does not. I did not know that. And also, the games before Soul Reaver are very different games. But I just got the first Legacy of Kain game, and I was like, oh, I gotta get this game. I gotta play this. I think Nosgoth is technically before that, so I guess technically I got the second game in the franchise. But Nosgoth and then, you know, the actual Legacy of Kain game. But I've only played the first game, and if we're going, you know, Soul Reaver wise, I've only played the first game, and I still count Defiance as like Soul Reaver. Technically, it's the third Soul Reaver, and then I guess it would be the fourth Legacy of Kain game, depending on how you want to look at it. If you're going with the first Legacy of Kain, and then there was Blood Omen, and then Blood Omen 2 was like a weird alternate reality thing, which I didn't know for a super long time. And I was like, oh, that's weird that they did that just randomly in the middle. I think that was even after Soul Reaver 2 came out. It was just like, here you go, Blood Omen 2, and it's an alternate universe. Like, huh, what an odd choice. But I've only ever played through the first game, and I never even beat the first game. I played the first game and owned the first one. I never beat it because I got stuck. You can check out my very old cheat codes video for that one. And I played and beat Legacy of Kain Defiance, which is like the last in the actual timeline, sadly. And, you know, don't know if we'll ever get anything beyond that story-wise, and I wish we would, because it was such an amazing game and super crazy. Once again, a lot of time-based stuff. By the time you get to just the second Soul Reaver game, there's a bunch of time-based stuff. So I would love to see us get more, but you know, it is what it is at this point. But only ever really played the first and third game. I know the ending to the second game because I watched my cousin play it, but I still want to play that game. And I want to, at some point, I want to go through like that whole franchise, just because the little bit that I have, I love the crap out of Legacy of Kain. Like, it is so well written and so well acted. It is legit. Like, it's Shakespearean. I think that is honestly appropriate. There are very few games I think you could genuinely be like, oh, it's Shakespearean. Like, no, Legacy of Kain is straight up Shakespeare. And it is crazy. It's super. If you do not know the story of Legacy of Kain, or like Soul Reaver, any of those, I promise you can watch a YouTube video and you'll find one of the best times of your life. Like, if you just want a great effing story, that is it. Like, the Legacy of Kain franchise is 100% where it's at, because that junk is so effing good. And this is super random, but I am riding down the street and there was a crazy effing accident on the road. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make my turn if this is as crazy as it looks up here. Just throwing that out there. You guys don't care. You can't even see what I'm looking at, but I'm seeing a bit of flashing, and I'm not seeing anybody turning around, which sucks. But I might be able to work something out here. Anyway, Soul Reaver. Check it out. Highly recommend it. It's absolutely phenomenal. But another game that's on my list when it comes to the backlog and things that I own, and I referenced it early on, it's actually Borderlands. I always wanted to play it really bad, and it sticks out in my head because I actually tried super hard to do it, and I really just want to play Borderlands. I want to play Borderlands 2. I played through the whole first game, all the DLC and stuff. Once again, bought everything for $2. And then, you know, pretty much the same thing when it comes to Borderlands 2. Got it super cheap. And I was like, man, I really want to play this. I still remember his name is Zero. That's the ninja. And of course, I'm going to, you know, be super biased. And I was like, I want the ninja guy. So forever, I was like, man, I just really want to play Borderlands 2. I want to go through it and have fun. And everyone, you know, I think even now people consider the second game to be the best out of the whole franchise. And it's like, well, that is kind of what I want then. I want to play the best in the franchise. I just want to play Borderlands 2 and, you know, have fun with those characters and, you know, jump into the world again. So that's definitely on my list. Heck, the whole effing franchise. I think I legit have every game except for 3. You know, just for free, I got them like at random here and there. I bought the first 2, and then I think that's about it. And after that, Epic Game Store, somewhere down the line, Borderlands pre-sequel, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, like the actual full game of that. I remember getting that on the Epic Game Store. And it's like, I want to play through all of those. Eventually, you know, one day if I do end up shooting through all those, I'll buy 3, and depending on how far it goes. If I buy all of them, you know, by the time I get to 4, it'll probably be $15 anyway. So it's like, I might as well. So I'll probably get through the whole franchise. But same situation where it's just like, you know, the Metal Gear thing where it's like, I actually tried to do that. Granted, I tried for real when it came to Borderlands. I took way too long with Metal Gear. That was on me. But for Borderlands, I actually kept trying over and over again to just play that game and enjoy it. And it just kept effing freezing. It just kept freezing. Don't know what the deal was, but it just kept doing it. And that was it. So I couldn't make it happen. But I think that's it. Yeah, there's definitely a time. I mean, obviously, the actual backlog is, you know, nigh eternal at this point. But that's why I wanted to make this specifically the most important ones, the ones that like really stick out when you're like, I know I have 100 million games. Oh, here's one, and this is a real shame. It's Astral Chain. That one it almost breaks my heart because a part of me is like, I don't even want to play it anymore, simply due to the fact that I actually started that game. All the other games were like, oh, I played, you know, Hi-Fi Rush for like 2 hours or something. Oh, I played Deathloop for, technically it was like 12 hours, but it was the first 6 hours twice. So it was like, all right, the beginning of the game for who knows how long of a game. I played through like half of Astral Chain. I played through like half of that game, and I'm pretty sure it's half because I got to a point that I thought was the actual end of the game, and it was just a big boss battle. And I think I mentioned this in another video, back in the day when I first was like, I'm gonna tackle my backlog. It was the first time I really had this concept. I went with Astral Chain and Gravity Rush 2. And the exact same thing happened in both of those games, where I thought I was at the end, and it was just the climactic halfway point where you do like an insane, you know, battle, and then you keep going, and I was like, oh, and it like deflated my entire like motivation to keep playing the game. As crazy as that sounds, I think it was partly because of the fact that I've been so driven by it being a backlog situation. And this wasn't even a recording thing, because that's honestly why a lot of games, I have a lot of games that I haven't played. It was like, well, I want to actually record these games and stream them and stuff like that. But for those two, I was just playing the game. I was just playing the game naturally. There was nothing to it. And it was just a natural deflation of like pure motivation, where I was like, I'm about to do it, and I was riding on a high. It was kind of like playing The Last of Us Part 2 when you get to the theater for the first time. It was just like that, where I was riding on a high, like I can't wait, and I feel happy, and I did something, and something crazy is about to happen, and then it just cuts. That's what it felt like. So if you played it, and I love The Last of Us Part 2, so some people, you know, I've seen the videos where like some people literally just uninstalled the game and broke the disc and stuff. I didn't have that reaction, but story-wise, that's how it felt. And that's what it was like in both Astral Chain and Gravity Rush. I went on to beat Gravity Rush 2, excessively underrated. Please find a way to play Gravity Rush 1 and 2. Those games are absolutely beautiful, and they have the movement, the unique gravity-based movement in that game needs to be used somewhere else. I don't know where or when it'll happen, but that needs to come back because that is so unique and it is super fun. So just wanted to throw that out there because those games are super underrated. I love Cat and Raven. But that just deflation in the middle where I thought I beat the game, it just killed it for Astral Chain. And I barely use my Switch anyway. I made a whole video, it hasn't been uploaded yet at this point, but I made a whole video talking about like consoles I regret, and the Switch was the one. Whereas like I played it, I've literally beat games on it. I beat Legend of Zelda, I beat Mario Rabbids, and that's really it. Everything else I have not beaten, or it's just an indie game you just play. And Astral Chain is that one, and it's such a great game. It's made by Platinum Games, and I love them. I love Bayonetta, so it's definitely there. And it's what, got very unique action mechanics. But it's 100% just like a crazy situation where I played so much of it, and then I'm like in the middle. And I can't, let's be honest, sometimes you just can't jump back in the middle. Not after this long. Like I have to replay the game. And then that's where it gets to the point of kind of like the same as Metal Gear, where it's like, if I had the opportunity, would I start over? Because that doesn't make sense. Like, do I really want to play through the whole thing, or would I rather just watch everything up to the point where I'm at? Because that kind of makes more sense to do. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that, but that's the one that like hurts the most, where it's like, it's important because I literally played like half the game and then I just stopped. And I've never done that before. That and Gravity Rush 2 are the only times I've ever had that happen to me, where I was like so focused on like trying to beat it that it kind of killed my joy of even playing the game because I was treating it as like a backlog thing. So you got to be careful with that sometimes, because it can definitely happen in that way. And like I said, it's only ever happened twice. Any other time I play something, I just end up playing through it, and like I just play it and I beat it and that's it. But for some reason with those two games, and I think it was just because like and the thing is, it's not like I was just like, oh, I'm only playing to beat them. It just so happened to be that was when I was thinking about it the most, and I was loving the games, and that's why I was playing them, of course. And then I think the fact that I thought I was doing, like I was like achieving something, is beating the game. But when you're doing your backlog and you got like 200 effing games, beating one of them feels like a real achievement. Like it does feel like something when you're just doing it. And something about that, like that riding high and then you just get crushed, and it's like, that is an insane situation that I've just never been in before. Tons of people don't beat games. That's not me. That's like weird. That's a super anomaly that if I have a game and I don't beat it, and that's the one that's on there that like I went through half the game, and it's so story driven that it's like, that's a huge part of why it's like I can't just start that game over. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in that game. So it's just, that's definitely the saddest one. And it's like, I definitely got to go back and beat that at some point and utilize my Switch. And then I have the other game that's on there, which is was that Crypt of the Necrodancer? I never beat that either. Granted, that's because that's like the one game on Earth that's actually hard for me. For some reason, and maybe it's because of the fact that I only, every time I play it, it's like once every 5 months, and then I play it for like 2 or 3 hours. And so I'm like, I don't really get the rhythm down within that time span, or I halfway do it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done playing it. And then I don't play for 5 effing months, and it's like, I don't play enough to actually even really get my balance down. Plus it's randomized, which is really the only reason that game is so tough, because sometimes you're doing great, and then I swear, if you've ever played that game, you probably know what I'm gonna say, but like 90% of the time, I swear I get nothing. I'm like, I'll go through literally like 3 straight levels, and it's like, cool, I have like this one effing sword the entire time. It feels like it's insanely rare. For anyone who's never played it, it's a roguelike game, and you gotta fight to the rhythm of the music. It's super fun, great concept, love the music, but it's randomized, and I swear, I just get shafted when it comes to weapons. I feel like once every 5 lives, I'll get like a good weapon, which is the whip, where it like goes around the corner. Other than that, I'll get a basic sword, if I get anything. Like, dead serious. I feel like I get shafted so hard when I play that game. Like, it's insane. And then I play for like 3 hours, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then I don't play for 5 months. So I don't know if I'll ever beat that game, just because of how little I actually put time into, getting into a rhythm with it. So who knows with that one. But Astral Chain, man, I almost forgot about that one, but I got to do something with that. I got to utilize my Switch. But that's where I'll end it. I'll end it on that sad, tragic story of me trying to figure out what to do with Astral Chain, which is utterly insane. Fantastic game. If you have a Switch, I do recommend it. It's really, especially if you like Bayonetta. Obviously it's Platinum Games, but just look into it. It's an older game at this point. Because it's Platinum, I think you can actually find it on sale for whatever, for what that's worth. I think that's a game that does actually, go on sale. Or, at this point, you could probably buy it used really easily. But definitely a fantastic game. I just messed up, like having just that weird mindset that I was in at the time of doing the backlog. And it was just so specifically me thinking that I was at the end, that it really crushed it for me. It's such a weird feeling to have, because I wasn't like, oh man, I gotta beat it. Like I said, I wasn't like so driven, like I have to beat this for the backlog. It was just that I happened to think that I was accomplishing something, and then I wasn't. And I was just like, oh, like gut check. Like, no, reality hit you. So, weird situation, very unique circumstance. But like I said, for me, I don't play games and not beat them. That's like insanely rare. So I know that's a huge thing. Look at numbers for like trophies and stuff like that. Like, people never effing beat games. I find that to be the weirdest thing in the world. But here I am. Not to mention the fact that I buy so many games and, once again, backlog. But it doesn't count if you don't start it. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. That's why Astral Chain is in a unique position. Bully, I never started Bully. I turned it on once, but I never started the story. That doesn't count. That doesn't count as anything. Technically, Ninja Gaiden Sigma, I did put 8 hours in and I never finished that. Skyrim, I did put 8 hours in and I never finished that. And also Tomb Raider, the reboot, I did basically get to the very end of that game. And I also never beat that either. But we don't have to worry about those, and I'll do that at some other point. Anyway, I want to know what important games are in your backlog that you haven't finished. What's at the top where you're like, I have to deal with my backlog, but this is where it has to start. I would love to know which ones are important for you guys. And if you can even randomly rattle off the number of games you have in your Steam library, please let me know. I'll probably put in the comments of this if I even remember, because I have no idea when I'm gonna upload this. But if I remember to do it, I'll just randomly check my Steam and just be like, here are the games that I have not started. I know I've started like half the games I own, and started is like technically you turned it on, but that barely counts. That doesn't count, so I'll have to check through those numbers. But please put your comments down in the comment section below. Try to find the time to finish those games. It'll feel good. Just take time to do it. For me, I screwed myself over with the whole media creation thing, and like I want to record all of it. That definitely 100% is what started it, because that's why I never played the Kingdom Hearts remix. I bought that on PS3, never played it. That's where it began, 100%. But please let me know yours. So please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.